you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the other members of your family. But just remember, we don't loan you money, so stop asking. We're not that kind of family. We're just a family of love, but we're broke. So
yeah, we're given knowledge in terms of
we're giving
who
knowledge
needs money when you got knowledge.
This you can use this knowledge when you're under the viaduct on Skid Row, and it will get you. I don't know. There's some drug jokes there, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one of the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet that you can find that they're just crazy, damn it. That's just it. Anyway, we have an amazing young man on the show today. We're going to be talking to Lucas Dickey about his company. That's kind of interesting. It's up our podcast
Up your alley,
as it were. Our alley. Is there a podcast alley? Maybe that's another website you can
Another
build.
show.
Yeah, it's called Deepcast.pro. FM is where you can find on the internet. Lucas is a seasoned entrepreneur and product leader with over 20 years of experience in digital media, ad tech, e-commerce, and AI-driven technologies. He's the CEO and founder of Deepcast and responsible for leading product development, design, and management. In addition to strategic marketing initiatives for customer acquisition to drive company revenue and revolutionize the podcast industry through Deepcast's AI-powered platform, which enhances discovery, engagement, and monetization for listeners, creators, and advertisers. Dickey is also responsible for interfacing and securing Deepcast investors, which includes influential Amazon executives. Welcome to the show. How are you, Lucas?
I'm doing well, Chris, and I think I'm just going to take that blurb and use it as my intro to every VC pitch meeting I do for the next 30 days straight.
You know, I've had so many of my guests that are like, can you just follow us around and introduce us anytime we walk in a room? Kind of like the president has.
Just a hype man.
Comes up. The hype man. And now, entering the room is Lucas.
And I want the music that goes with it, too.
You want the music that goes with it? I'm just here for the brain bleed. You know, and then like your wife and kids are looking at you like, seriously? You're just walking into
what
the
brain
kitchen.
bleed?
Who are you, man? What happened? And all that. So, Lucas, welcome to the show. I guess, give us the .fm one more time, as we ask guests to do, and give us a 30,000 overview of what Deepcast is.
Sure. So Deepcast, the website is deepcast.fm, and that's the listener experience. There's also Deepcast.pro, which is for creators. The sort of vision for the business is, unlocking the value of the world's spoken knowledge. So
there's knowledge on podcasts?
You would think so. Yours in particular, where there's bleeding going on in the brain left and right.
That's too much knowledge, evidently.
It's true. But as you can imagine, there are a lot of conversations happening in podcasts these days. Many of the most compelling conversations. You get world leaders that are on with, Lex or All In, or you get Joe Rogan smoking a blunt with Elon or whatever it happens to be. But you're also getting subject matter experts across virtually any field that you can imagine that are talking in podcasts, except for it's all trapped in this audio format, which means it cannot be structured, indexed, connected in a way that's helpful for users at large. So our sort of impetus for this business, Chris, was, man, why does podcasting still feel like it did 10 to 15 years ago? Every other media type feels like it's accelerated in terms of discovery, recommendations, all these other technologies. And podcasting is basically the same as it was in 2012. And we said, okay, I'm tired of sort of Yahoo style top X lists that you scroll from the bottom down. I'm tired of basic keyword search. I'm tired of the limited amount of information I can pass through as a podcaster. How do we improve that? And you have now over 500 million users globally listening to podcasts, on a trend to over 1 billion in the next 2 years. 4.5 million podcasts. There's over 500,000 publishing roughly every 90 days. So there's a lot of supply, a lot of demand. And then I think we can curse on this show. Can we curse on this show?
Yeah.
Really,
we're past the one minute mark on YouTube or whatever the hell it is.
a really shitty interface that exists between supply and demand. So how do we improve all of that? So we are leveraging the latest and greatest in technology these days. So we're transcribing everything. And then we leverage the beauty of AI to pull out key insights, pull out key quotes, summarize it. Why? Because when I get an invite to listen to a 2.5 hour episode of some arbitrary podcast, I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to 2.5 hours. But if I read that little blurb, it may be enough to get me, and then I jump in. So it's all about discovery, distillation, and then in term dissemination. You, Chris, probably know this. Number one way to get someone to listen to your show these days is word of mouth.
I hold a gun to their head. Does that count?
That's a variant of word of mouth, I'm told. Word of gun? I don't know.
Word of gun?
Word of gun.
Probably a show for that.
That's going to be our collaboration for our next show together. So
that's how I arranged my first 5 marriages. Don't do that, people. These are jokes. Don't write me.
Shotgun marriages is a real thing, is what Chris is saying. But
basically, I'm in Utah, so.
With that being said, the sort of impetus was like many people only listen to about 5 shows. Why? Because they don't want to just scroll endlessly through these lists, and they listen to whatever shows their friends send them. So how do we improve that experience with sort of the incarnation of Deepcast?
You know what would be funny is I don't know if you can do this yet with AI, but you can probably do anything because it's AI, and AI is just kind of doing anything right now. But one of the things our audience tells us, I think we have a 96%, 94% listen rate. So they're listening to
all the way.
They're listening to everything. Somebody's just putting it on blast and just like rocking it. I guess. I think we suspect that they're listening to it during a happy time in the bedroom. I'll put it that way.
It's possible. What's the duration of your show? That's probably aligns directly with the bedroom behavior.
About 30 seconds. So it's more for married men. Anyway, I don't know what that means. Why you gotta marry men, Chris? I don't know. It sounded funny. But, a lot of people, what they tell us is they listen to the show for the first 5 to 10 minutes. They give us about 5 to 10 minutes. And these are people that are loyal to the show, too.
Yeah.
They like me for some reason. I think they're all on drugs, maybe. But they like me for the energy and the pop and the comedy. And I think that's really why people really listen to the show, although we have really brilliant people like yourself on to make me look smart when I'm an idiot.
We try.
Yeah, I'm just funny. That's really it. People are like,
he's here for the laughs.
He's dumb. He's stupid. I don't know why he's the host. He's funny. They say that on YouTube a lot. But they listen to the first 5 minutes, and what they're really doing is they're checking to see the guest. Mm-hmm. And they want to know if the guest is interesting and energetic. And even if they don't like the topic of, what the guest has to offer, maybe they're a romance novel instead of a book on history or something, maybe it's something that they're not, it's not their wheelhouse. If the guest is energetic and interesting, but mostly energetic, they'll listen. So if the guest feeds off of me. So I don't know if there's any way for the AI to be like, is there any energy in this show, or is it just dead?
Snappiness. No, it's the sort of the idea of like sentiment analysis, except for instead of saying is it positive or negative, it's a high energy, low energy. Is there actual conversation and banter? Is there humor in here? And the answer is yes. AI can figure those things out.
I can pick up the laughter, maybe the ha-has or something. Sometimes though we cry on the show, so there's that. But
that's sometimes a means to connect as well. Rapport is built around the 30-second bedroom activity you alluded to, plus crying, plus laughing.
Yeah, which is pretty much what most people, I think that's the whole range of emotions people go through when they listen to the show. That's what true. I do when I have to wake up and do the show. There's some crying, and do I have to wake up? You have to do a show, but I'm really enjoying sleeping. Yes. Anyway, the other thing is too, is how do you guys approach what I call zombie podcasts? I think I coined that term. And there's a lot of dead wood in the podcasting business.
Yeah.
I think Anchor's probably up to 500,000 freaking what I call zombie podcasts. They're just abandoned. A lot of them, they publish like once a year. I'll meet people that are like, I'm a podcaster too, like you. And I'm like, that's cute. That's cute.
That's cute. I love it.
My dog takes shits as well. And I'm like, so when was your last podcast? Oh, we do only one like once a year. And I'm like, how many up to? Oh, I'm up to 5 now. You're not really a podcaster.
Yeah. You're not even a hobbyist.
You're not even a hobby. You're not even a beginner. And then the stats that came from one of the big hosting companies that hosts us was 80% of podcasts don't make it past episode 7. Out of that 20% left over, 80% won't make it past episode 25, especially if they don't have their own website.
That's right.
And that's a huge fallout.
Yeah.
There's so many podcasts that are just walking dead. And we put out 2 to 3, sometimes 4 shows a weekday.
Yeah.
So we kind of run like a radio, and we have that huge consumption rate, which surprises me to this day. Why anyone listen to this show? I think the reason they dip out at 96% is they know that I'm wrapping the show. They're like, Chris is wrapping the show. Skip the
time to go.
Yeah, time to go. He's just going to say stupid shit at the end and some ramble. But I don't know if there's a way to discern which ones are the zombie shows and the abandoned shows. There's so many that they haven't published in 2 years.
For sure. I mean, in our case, we have fixed costs associated with processing translation or transcription and then the AI part of it. So we're actually prioritizing active podcasts over inactive podcasts.
So you are identifying them, huh?
I'm choosing that front. We're not really what you might think of as like a traditional like player where the player feels like it has the need to have everything. Ours is more discovery around engaging content. So we're front loading compelling content that regularly publishes, has compelling guests on. So yes, the zombie are not our target audience.
That's good.
Zombies looking for zombies.
There needs to be some sort of, I don't know. There needs
great culling.
Maybe that, or they just need to wrap them up or shut them down, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of the messy world of decentralized podcasting. But
dude, if I had $5 for every idiot that's walked up to me and said, "Oh, you do amazing work," and we've been here for 16 years, 2,000 episodes, and they're like, "I can do what you do. I think I'm just going to go be a podcast." I'm like, "Shut the fuck up."
And you recognize a bunch of things like the stats you were rattling off there, part of which is like how many of them don't have websites, despite the fact that you can use Wix, Squarespace, Webflow, Bubble. There's any number of things that you can use to create a website. Some of that are things that we're going to be tackling. I was talking about with Deepcast.pro. We're generating really rich, interesting podcast and episode pages with what we do. Why not just give you an option to personalize it somewhat with a content management system and say, publish that thing at your own URL. So we're doing that. That's in the roadmap, and that should help. And you're right.
Discovery. It would be funner to go hunt stuff down. Give me all the podcasts that talked about, I don't know, politics or maybe some, P. Diddy's been in the news lately. I've been pulling a lot of jokes. It's just a wealth bank of jokes there, and it just keeps getting better. With baby oil and everything else, and
car bombings.
Yeah, and I think he's actually cellmating now with the
SBF. Yeah.
SBF. I'm friends with that dude on Facebook. I don't even know how that happened. I was going
Big fan of your show. Chris Voss brings in all of your convicted felons for white criminal.
Yeah, that's the new Chris Voss show launching next month on Hulu.
Directly inside the Brooklyn prison, one cell over.
Yeah. So
no, you're right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, we are doing things like what we'd call like topical analysis and entity-based analysis, where entities are like people, places, product, et cetera. So you could say, where was Diddy mentioned, and jump between all those episodes where Diddy's being mentioned. Or you and I talked about, sub-minute sex, if that ends up being a topic. What other shows are talking about it? And you'll be fascinated by the world of, as I'm ingesting this content, Chris, I couldn't tell you how many podcasts I've seen around identifying the perfect pornography for you, and I was like, there's podcasts for that? Are you serious?
and now a word from our sponsor. If you have ED, no, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. And there's plenty of those. You can get yourself some dollars. But ironically, you'll appreciate this, Chris. We're also going to be building out a service that's like ad intelligence, which would be, hey, what content would be good for this show? Chris happens to be funny off the cuff, and he also uses the word shit, but he also talks about this stuff. Would he be a good source for me to place my ads? And I'm sure you would love more ad dollars, right? So how do you get more brand dollars into the mix?
Yeah, that or he used the word shit. We can't have that.
That's the flip side.
We can't have that in our Johnson & Johnson baby oil. Wait, I'm going to get sued for that.
No, you'll get the toilet paper. I forget the toilet paper that's wipe my ass or something like that. And that'll be your number one sponsor.
We actually had a toilet paper. Jack, during COVID, we had somebody on and they make bamboo toilet paper. They came on and talked about their bamboo toilet paper.
Sustainable buttholes.
Yeah, it's pretty much hey, everyone's got a wipe. So what else do we need to know about Deepcast and what you guys do or what you guys are hoping to do, your vision for the future?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks who are diving into it really do want, I mean, we've said a couple of things here, and I'm going to read a little bit of marketing material off the top of the head, but imagine when the internet was closed and had no search and had no sharing. I still feel like podcasting is that. If you're using a native application like Spotify or Apple, it's really hard to share information that's inside it. In fact, like Spotify, a lot of people can't even figure out how to share anything. So if you want to share a quote, Chris drops like a mind-blowing, gem of knowledge. It's not all that easy to take that and share it today. So how do I become like a 1,000 true fan of yours if I can't even figure out how to share that bit? Now, you have to do a good job at creating reusable assets because you happen to be a show that puts time and effort into that. Many of them don't know how to do that. So if we start doing things like automated asset generation for you, we create viral clips for you as a podcaster on the pro side of it, or on the consumer side. You click the share button. We say, do you want to share with an image? Do you want to share with video? Do you want to share with text? And we do all that for you. So the whole idea is helping people sort of like foment the curiosity and dissemination of the knowledge, because jokes aside, there are a lot of really interesting stuff inside of podcasts. There's also just funny shit in podcasts you want to share too. So how do you spread the funniness? So a lot of it is discovery and sharing, because we're like, yes, there may be way too many zombie podcasts, but there's this very large sort of mid-tail of podcasts that has compelling, rich stuff, and being able to find the right stuff. So we actually do like semantic search, which means you can type like the thing you are looking for, not in a lexical, so not in a keyword fashion. So if you thought in this episode, Chris said something about wiping his ass, you can type, wiping his butt or wiping his ass, and then it'll end up showing up in our search. So being able to find
really leaning on the
heard.
Keywords that your service is going to pick up when they ask.
That's right, all of them.
I'm going to be like number 2 on ass wiping.
There we go. Whatever gets you to the top of the lists.
I think brain bleed will be our number one thing. That seems to be what everyone loves, the brain bleed part of the intro.
Yeah, but ultimately it is. Think, Chris, because you've been at this for, would you say, 16 years, but you've seen the last 6 years of the explosion of growth and like new entrants where new listeners are like, I just don't even know where to start. And I start and I pick 5 and then I'm done. However, when I asked them, as doing research at the very beginning of this thing, it was much easier to find things that were interesting to you. Would you subscribe to more podcasts? And the answer was yes. I was like, are you sure you're not saturated with watching Netflix or YouTube or listening to music on Spotify or Pornhub or OnlyFans? And the answer is no. I would definitely consume more podcasts. I just can't fucking figure out where it is or what it is I'm interested in. So I think of it as just a discovery unlock. So we often say it's the Google for podcasts, and in a very meaningful way. Everything's being unlocked because all the text is there.
I think I might end up regretting that brain bleed. It's COVID, people. Brain bleed keyword, because I'll probably get lumped with a bunch of doctors who do things for brain injury.
Or you get all of them wanting to sponsor your show. In case you've gotten brain bleed from Chris Voss.
He just gave me a sponsorship idea.
Yeah. St. John's, brought to you by UCLA Health.
It'll probably be attorneys. Have you suffered brain bleed from the Chris Voss show? You may be entitled to compensation. Like, why are we putting that on the show? What the fuck?
I was going to say,
we're going to get a class action suit by our own sponsors. Which wouldn't be the first time, by the way.
Litigation dollars are massive, so it's a good audience to have invested into your company.
We have a lot of attorneys on the show. That's just what I need. So I'm looking at your website, and if I want to search, I can search for podcasts. I can search a topic in different genres, or not genres, but
categories.
Categories. Podcasts, episodes, transcript, and topics entitled, or entities. It's the COVID, people. I'm still getting over it. So you have some search suggestions. So there's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. There's some assholes running for office. Quality of sleep.
Couple of them.
That might be a good one. Let's go with quality of sleep, since I don't get any with COVID. And so I can see all these episodes by transcript. There's the Huberman Lab.
Surprisingly.
He does a lot. I think I usually watch him to figure out how to cheat on my girlfriends. Let's see. That's a joke.
Or your 5 wives, as it were.
5 wives? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I know. Boy, he caught some heat on that. Let's see. You can see podcasts that are talking about quality of sleep. So there's a few of them here.
And then related topics are on there as well. So if under quality of sleep, you may find diet or other hygiene or...
Oh, that's right. Okay. Quality of care, quality of life, quality of hire. Quality of hire. What are you hiring people to sleep on the job?
Interesting.
Sounds like our employees around this house. Entities, my dogs, they're just always sleeping. Bums. I'm still trying to get to pay rent. Entities, quality of earnings concept, quality control. So you have a few different variations that you spin out with the AI. You can see the podcasts that are talking about it. You can see the episodes. So that's nice. You know, that is one of the problems, because I'll have somebody say, hey, you know, somebody talked about, I don't know, let's just throw some out, dating. And I saw on this XYZ podcast, she goes, listen to that. And then I'll go look at the podcast, and, you know, there's like 200 freaking episodes.
You can't find it.
Which one is the one you were talking about, moron?
Yeah.
And so this is great. It identifies with the exact episode.
You're actually, Chris, you were getting towards an idea that we're also talking about, which is like scoping your search to a specific show. So if it was the Chris Voss show, you go to Chris's show, you search on Chris Voss one of two ways. You can either type the thing you thought was said, and then it shows up the text from that specific episode, or just the title within it, which again, sort of like scoped search doesn't exist within those other platforms we were talking about, because again, they've kind of stopped innovating a long time ago. I don't mind throwing stones.
Yeah, throw away, man. I mean, it is kind of a weird thing. Like you can't see, and I guess part of it is the problem of the third-party podcast apps and what they will share for privacy with Apple and I guess the syndicates and stuff. But, you know, it's kind of weird. You just can't get... On YouTube, I can get all sorts of details on our audience, and on iTunes, it's kind of... I don't know. They just downloaded your shit and listened to it. I don't know what the hell else they do.
They don't have a motivation because it's a rounding error in their revenue model, so they've just kind of stopped.
I'm still surprised Apple hasn't figured out how to charge us for it. Oh, fuck. What did I just do?
What did you just do?
What did I just do? They charge everybody for everything, and they overprice it too. And so I just told Apple what their next revenue stream is to make $1 trillion. They'll probably use old tech to do it. So I can look at the transcript here. So that's really cool. And when I pull up the transcript for one of Huberman Labs, oh, holy crap, wow, okay. Oh yeah, so it's got a lot of data here on this episode. A deep summary.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting.
So we do this deep summary, we do these key takeaways, top quotes from it. We break it into chapters for you, which a lot of folks don't do for their podcasts. And then we give you the takeaways from the chapter level. If that was a particular episode you were looking for a detail, over in the navigation on the left, you'll see search transcripts. So you can click into that and type, if you're on the hygiene episode, type hygiene, see what shows up in the list of things that are coming back on that page. And so you're like, oh, it was roughly, I know, rather than having to say it was roughly halfway through the show, he talked about the thing, I can just type the thing and find exactly where it was. So significant time savings in terms of being able to find and connect with the information again. A lot of this, again, is, I think of it as like on top of a discovery platform, it's a research, right? Like you listened to it already. I listened to this episode. Chris dropped some knowledge around how he uses, let's say, StreamYard because it's superior in some fashion or another, but it was a 24-minute podcast. How do I find that thing? Jump in here, search transcript, and then jump straight to what you're looking for. We will have a feature coming soon that I don't mind sort of like previewing, which is even more AI. I'm throwing quotes around it because everything's AI these days, but is being able to chat with the episodes. Hey, Chris was talking about, preferences for distribution platforms. What was his takeaway? And then the response will be a summarized response of here's how he felt about Anchor versus StreamYard versus whatever else you had referenced. And so summarizing it for you. So ultimately it's meant to be bidirectional though too. Like we're not replacing podcasting. This is a means to engage a little and then or more. And then, oh shoot, Chris drops knowledge regularly. I subscribe to Chris. We'll assume you do. How about that? Another thing that we have is it's a Deep Digest, which is a daily digest email. So anything you're subscribed to, we send you short form versions of those generated summaries, because you and I know that a lot of shows don't necessarily put much effort into their episode notes. So we'll put a little bit of details there. We'll put some bullets in there, and it makes it easier for you to say the things I don't need to go into Spotify and scan through the like new release list instead. These are the things I know I'm curious about, and here's a little bit of information to sort of drive my listening behavior for the day. Which for me, I'm subscribed to 85 shows. So when I get that email, I scan it, and I'm using it to populate my queue into my player of choice, which right now is Pocket Casts.
I could really use this on certain podcasts that are a bit long in the tooth.
Yeah, for sure.
You just want the breakdown of them. Two of them are really good, like Sam Harris.
Yeah, for sure.
Peter Tia's, is it a Tia? Peter Tia's.
Yes, Peter Tia's.
Yeah, his podcast is really well, but he talks about a lot of stuff, and you're just like, can you just give me the meat of that? I just want but he makes it so you can get the meat of it on his website if you're a paid subscriber.
Yeah, and I would say there's some like archetypes for doing things right, of which those two are probably better in terms of having a website with these things on it. They are the 0.0001% of podcasters who are sort of like doing that. And so ideally, we make that easier also providing you with tools that you can use off our platform while simultaneously having the actual Deepcast.fm that listeners can engage with too. So we will be building, a lot of what we build, Chris, is like, it's built in a way that's intentionally modular so that it can be used off of our platform as well. Do we start licensing? If you go to Deepcast.pro and you end up signing up for an account, those transcripts, they're downloadable for free. The insights we derive, they're free. We actually generate social posts for you for free. Wow. We do keyword blocks, topic blocks, all the sort of things you would want to put inside your episode details to make it more discoverable in whatever podcast. We're just giving that away for free today.
I think I'm paying one of your competitors. Maybe I need to just use
consider switching. Service. Entirely possible.
Until you start charging me.
I'm curious to know which one of them they are, but maybe
do you want me to say it on air? I don't want to, give leeway to your competitors, but
I don't mind.
Decipher AI.
Okay. There's another one called podcastai.com, which we're also tracking really closely. So it's good to know what the other guys are. Yeah.
I do like Decipher. There's a few that I tried. I don't know if I tried that other competitor you mentioned, but I really like how they build out the show notes and they fall through on them. Our biggest problem, you have a lot of data that I'd love to be able to put in our WordPress blog, but the problem is that thing shits the bed if you put too many characters in a post.
Yeah.
On WordPress. And, there's you kind of have to pick your...
What you really is the most important stuff.
What you really want to share. I like to just throw it all in there just for the Google,
SEO ramifications.
That's really kind of what you guys are doing, really. You guys are picking up and transcribing it.
And one thing we're doing is like every one of the podcast pages, we are providing links back to all of your properties, right? And your social handles and all that stuff. So even if you find us, you've got a lot. I'm trying to remember.
I'm going to break your guys' system, man. We just submitted the Chris Voss show. You got 2,000 episodes coming at you, man. And
You'll be okay.
Do 1 hour, 2 hour podcasts back in the day. So have fun with
I have a colleague, Chris, who has 2,500 podcasts.
Holy crap. Well, we'll catch up to
and he literally broke Apple's system because they were not used to having anyone having over 1,000 podcasts. The sort of extra fourth digit they had to add to support his number of podcasts.
Thank God for him carving a path for us.
Yeah.
Because Blueberry used to do that thing with me. They're like, you should only put up 300. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm not doing it. And then I just kept increasing the number and seeing Apple was handling it. And I'm just like,
I'll keep going.
Give them the fire hose. And fortunately, Blueberry's got this great thing. It's a fire hose sort of service where it makes sure your URL feed, whatever the RSS feed is up 24/7. If your website goes down for some bullshit, you don't have to worry about it.
It should persist. Yeah.
It keeps a mirror. That's what it is. It's a mirror. Great service. And it's got speed behind it too. It doesn't fuck you like your WordPress does.
Yeah.
We kept trying to use CDNs or was it CDN we were trying to use?
That would be where you took it.
Yeah, we kept trying to do all this shit to speed it up, and they came up with this mirror service. It's amazing. So if I'm a normal consumer, I use Deepcast.fm to find what I'm interested, what I'm looking for. Maybe I'm a journalist looking for, stories or something.
Research,
Research. There's probably if you're writing a book, maybe you want to pull some research. This is better than Google Alerts, really, when it comes down to it. And then if I'm a podcaster, I want to use Deepcast.pro, right?
.pro, yeah. Deepcast.pro is the name of the product, and the URL is Deepcast.pro. And there will be more coming from that. I love that you were calling out sort of research use cases, because it's applicable almost to like, it's a grad student who's writing their thesis. And guess what? A lot of this stuff, you and I know that the information isn't otherwise available because these transcriptions don't exist anywhere else. Great place to come. I don't know why the grad students had you cracking up. I want to know the joke in the head. What is it?
Yeah, the joke in the head. You're a good read. You're a good read. The joke in the head was I had this vision, some professor at a college. I'm a little slow on the count with the COVID. Some professor in college going, "Who submitted the paper about brain bleed? What the hell?" It's about George Washington. What the? You got an F. Yeah, it's a Chris Voss show. That's a double F.
I was thinking it was the med student who was using your show for their neuroscience class and what causes brain bleed. Or, I don't know.
Flunked.
Number one causes is that in Chris Voss
show. I didn't. The patient bled out. I'll probably get sued by the lawyers for that one too. That'll be another class action lawsuit. The Chris Voss show says they can resolve brain bleed, and they don't do that. It'll be like the lawyer who sued Red Bull because it said to give you wings, and he literally sued them. He literally sued them because he said, you advertise it gives you wings and it doesn't. And they paid him I think it was like $1 million or something to go away. Some attorney did. Did you ever hear that story?
It's the lovely frivolous lawsuits that is America, where you can sue anyone for anything.
America. I'm going to sue myself.
See how that one goes. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, anyway, what have we talked about that you have rolling out and the big vision here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the third tier that we haven't talked about, because we talked about listeners and then we talked about creators themselves. The third tier we'll ultimately be doing is more of an enterprise offering, which will ultimately be one of them we talked about as ad intelligence. There's an equivalent of this within display.
We need a lot of that on this show. Not from our guests, mostly from me.
We don't. It's not a Chris Voss intelligence service. It's just an ad intelligence show
for the intelligence added.
They get to offset you.
That's what they do. That's the only reason we have guests. This would be the dumbest show ever if it was just me.
We all get chuckles, and chuckles go a long way. Oxytocin is important.
Yeah, that's what the girls say. They like the guys who can make them laugh.
That's true. But yeah, the idea would be like, you could imagine, where's Ford putting dollars? Where is Johnson & Johnson putting dollars? What sort of ads are they spending? Johnson & Johnson, not on your show for toilet paper in this case, or whatever it happened to be earlier. Baby oil, that's what it was. But being able to figure out where to put brand dollars to work is like huge. The other you and I were talking about earlier is the idea of brand safety. Like, where is a good place for me to put? If I'm Disney or Coca-Cola, I don't want to put my dollars on Chris Voss show. Sorry, Chris. However, if I'm a brand who likes to do more biting humor and stuff like that, you might be perfect for them. So ad intelligence and brand safety is a massive business, surprisingly, or not. And then there are sort of deeper versions of what you're alluding to with listeners on FM, which is more, both Bloomberg and Thomson Reuters have products that do media monitoring. If I'm the Apple brand manager who owns Vision Pro, or I'm the OpenAI crisis comms person, I want to see what people are saying about Sam Altman's latest debacle, and I better hurry up and get out there and get ahead of the curve on whatever happens to be. There are a lot of brands who are trying to stay ahead of the negative press, right? So there's an entire enterprise offering that will be less sexy on the presentation to the consumer, but high utility, because there's, again, tons of information inside podcasts.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how Sam Altman owns a large portion of stock, even though he converted a non-profit to a profit. Can we search that on the website and figure that out? Anyway,
there is actually some information there, because you had Elon complaining about it in the All In pod, so you could definitely research it there. Yeah,
he's just jealous that he gave up on it and it turned into something. Old Elon.
That was, I think, his comment to Elon was, "Those who can't innovate litigate," which must have. And that's like Elon right where it would hurt him, because he sees himself obviously as an innovator. But yeah, definitely big vision. So
can we all just get together and throw some money together so we can get him that surgery that makes men larger, at least past 2 inches? Anyway, not sure what that means. And I notice here you got upcoming in the works feature, easy merchandising. You pick from hats, t-shirts, mugs, and more. In fact, I've got a great idea, since it turns out you're probably going to be categorizing us as some sort of brain bleed product podcast. I'm going to sell a helmet.
Why not?
The Chris Voss show of helmets. Wear them in public so you don't hurt yourself, people.
Chris Voss placebo pills that save you from brain bleed. Yeah,
That's on all the short buses in America.
but yeah, the idea was again around like spreading word and people wanting to support podcasters. I mean, it's not all that hard to generate sort of physical collateral, and people want to buy and support shows, or not buy the show, but they want to support them podcasters directly. And the idea there will be you can pick from an array of types of merchandise. You can put your Chris Voss show logo on it, or we'll allow for other things. You hold no inventory. We handle fulfillment. We handle billing. For you, it's mostly just picking the pieces you want to sell, one and done.
Maybe we can get Band-Aid, the Band-Aid brand, to pick up a Brain Bleed Chris Voss show Band-Aid that you put over your ear.
I love it.
Put over your ear if you're a politician or something. I don't know what that means. So this is pretty exciting. And what do you think, or I'm not asking why you feel. What do you feel about AI? What do you think about AI and the future this holds? I mean, this is the potential for this seems pretty unlimited for what AI can do. You know, it's not like one of the problems that we have as human beings is our main prerogative is just to run around, breed, and raise kids and die. But AI has got something that's, you know, it's thinking of a much bigger picture, probably that we've never ever really imagined, given we've tried to imagine a lot. Mostly it's OnlyFans, but what are your thoughts on the future that AI has?
Of AI in general?
Yeah, just in general.
I mean, I
Sam
personally...
Altman, pick, you know.
Whatever happens to be. No need to pick on him. He gets picked on plenty of people.
He's a nice guy, I'm sure.
I would say that, I mean, I tend to be generally an optimist, and so I think there's a lot of opportunity to be had, but I'm also someone who's concerned about the distribution of prosperity that gets created, right? So I don't like the idea of AI only being in the hands of Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, OpenAI. So I somewhat believe in distributed version. This happens to be the one area that I like Meta and Facebook, because they've gone open source in all of their models, which means that anyone can operate those. They don't have to pay, via API for it. The models are open in many ways. But I don't know, fundamentally, I think that I'll use me as an example, Chris, or like sort of early stage businesses where I'm at, or potential solopreneurs, things like that. I'm generating all of my marketing copy with no marketer. I'm generating all my outbound sales with no salesperson. I myself, though I've worked in software product development for 20 plus years, I'm not a software engineer, but I'm committing to our code base or contributing to the code base daily. Why? Because AI is enabling me to do all those things or facilitating it. So I do think, a certain subset of folks, it'll help accelerate them. There's going to be a lot of need for sort of like cross training and education, because you don't want folks left behind in the process. While AI evolves quickly, on the other hand, we might be headed towards the sort of Marxist world anticipated 100 years ago. Yeah, or the flip side, which is we're Wall-E. We're fat, chubby, sitting on the floating chairs, drinking Coca-Cola because AI is just doing everything now for us. some subset of us are. That's true.
Watching The Bachelor, or just cue the Terminator movie music. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, one of those Boston Dynamic things. I really like it. I think it's I'm a fairly creative person, although I've gotten old and less creative. When I was younger, I had a better imagination about stuff. Now I'm just a jaded old bitter man. And
5 marriages will do that to you.
Who can't feel his legs? 10, actually. It changes, actually, from show to show. It depends on the callback joke. The joke, people, is I've never been married, so that's why. People come up to me and they'll be like, you always joke on the show about all your divorces, and there's 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 9, there's 10. How many times have you been divorced? I'm like, none. That's the joke. Anyway, I just had to explain that joke one more time for filler. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I just wanted this to show up on the... I figure the Deepcast.FM and Pro is going to end up heavily featured on your site, so I'm just milking every keyword I can.
Every minute you can.
just making up topics to
I love it.
Showing the details. We're going to make this a 4-hour show, by the way, so we're just getting started. Cramming all the keywords into it. It's going to be the keyword show.
I love it.
What was the question I had for you?
Well, I want to piggyback on something you were saying, because it was more like going from broad AI to maybe us in particular. I'm also excited about the fact that what you can do with AI. So imagine like language to language translation. The Chris Voss show in Portuguese, in Cantonese, in Russian, or those shows in English, because I want to be able to consume what folks are saying in particular. Like, you know, I'm going to go hyper nerdy here. Let's say I'm like an asset manager. I'm a hedge fund guy. I'm PE. I'm a Main Street trader. I want to know what the Taiwanese media is talking about with Taiwan semiconductors before I hear it from the American media, because it could be an opportunity for me to go and quickly short it or buy it or whatever happens to be. That's just a financial context. And again, language to language would enable that. And that could be either us, because we're taking text, it's easy enough to take the text and translate it to another language and do the same with the takeaways and the quotes, etc. And then all of a sudden, Chris Voss is popular in Brazil and Thailand and Norway. Why not? All good vacation spots.
We've often talked about doing that thing. There's a couple of podcasters that do it really well, and they have their podcast translated into some other languages, and you know, like we could have a Mexican one and other thing. But I think we have to have tacos officially on the show if we do a Mexican one.
Good reason to have tacos.
Yeah, we'd have to change the front where it wouldn't be, do you want brain bleed? It would be like, do you want tacos? We have distinction. Anyway, but no, I love this idea. You know, even I do shows where, you know, I'll tell somebody, they'll be like, hey, Chris, have you ever had somebody on the show that talks about, I don't know, marriage counseling, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, a few years we had a marriage counselor on the show. And I can kind of search them a little bit on my site, the chrisvossshow.com, by the way. But we didn't do show notes. Like, show notes are kind of a newer thing. Over 16 years. So, like, a lot of times it's not, you know, the data's not there in the searchable format unless I hit a title keyword. And even then, sometimes it's a stupid site. It doesn't work right half the time. No, it does. It's fine. It's just sometimes I can't find the keyword I'm looking for. So I'm like, what was that author's name? Was it Bob? And I'm putting Bob in, and you know, I don't have the right author. I don't have the right title of the book, but I just kind of know. Or sometimes I'll do a whole podcast and be like, yeah, we talked about that in the middle of the podcast. I should go back and reference that or something.
Yeah.
Or like, you're like, hey, that would be a key short snippet. And then you're like, that was the funny part of the whole show for 3 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
One line was the funny part. Where was that line?
I love it. I mean, there's a similar use case I've talked about with another popular podcaster, which is I was in his private super fan group or whatever you want to call it. And he's, hey, we're having these guests on, and I want to make sure they don't say the same thing they've said 18 other times on other shows because they're doing the road show. What are the questions you guys think we should have? And I was thinking, you know, if you came and used my service, you could look up everything they were on recently, and then you could pass it all into AI and say, hey, think about some net new questions, or what are they talking about, so I know what not to talk about.
I like that.
So I was like, yeah, it keeps it, you know, when you listen to Jonathan Haidt or Scott Galloway or anyone else who's on their 67th guest appearance in 3 weeks, it'd be nice to get like new content.
Yeah, because one of the problems I've always had is, I'll give you an example. We've had a few people on the show that got attacked by Donald Trump during his presidency and eviscerated on Twitter. I think one was the captain of the Navy captain of Theodore Roosevelt, and another was Peter. He was with the FBI, and he had that texting scandal. Peter, I can't remember. I don't want to say Peter Thiel, and that's not it.
So it keeps on popping up for me too, but yes.
And we had Peter on the show, and I'd seen Peter all over. You know, he'd been on the congressional hearings. He'd been everywhere on the TV things. You know, and I've got friends on CNN and stuff, and they've been on the show. And I get tired of, you know, how they only have 1 or 2 minutes to interview somebody for some shit. And all they wanted to do was go after Peter's text messages that were salacious. And he's like, oh, you're texting your girlfriend and, you know, blah, 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 and you're cheating on your wife. And, you know, it's something every 50-year-old guy I know is doing right now. Anyway, whatever. I just threw all 50-year-old guys under the bus. You know, like, I don't give a shit. And my big question was, I want to know about my democracy and saving my democracy. Yeah. I don't care about some 50-year-old guy's text message in a midlife crisis because his wife is ignoring him. Peter Strzok is who it was. His book was called Compromised.
I think he got a $2.1 million payout, by the way, for what it's worth.
Finally, yeah. It took him a long time. But, you know, I mean, he went through hell. I mean, he had to move out of his house because he was getting death threats. As an FBI agent. You know, he had to protect his family. And I wanted to ask questions that were like, who is this man? You know, and he was getting eviscerated on social media. He was getting eviscerated in the media. All the media wanted to talk about was 2 minutes of, you know, so were you...
You want sound bites.
Yeah, it's just... It was awful. And I'm like, can we find out what the fuck he knows and how my democracy is in danger? And so I brought him on the show and we tried to ask questions that no one had heard about it. And we didn't really try to humanize him, but he's a human fucking being.
He is, yeah.
And a lot of people, they're just like, oh, he's, you know, as a punching bag for the media and social media and, of course, the president of the United States. And, you know, one question I wanted to ask him is, and I've asked that of a couple people that have been on the show, what's it like having the commander-in-chief, the number one most powerful technically person in the world, using you for a punching bag on Twitter? You wake up to that. What is that like? What does it feel like? Because not a lot of people have had that experience. And so it was kind of interesting to, you know, get his take on things or the gentleman
his perspective,
the captain of the Theodore Roosevelt, who just as stoically and carelessly as possible, he just went, nah, everyone's got their own opinion. I just about fell out of my fucking chair. But, you know, great questions like that. One of the other things we talked about with Peter was no one had talked to him about was why he talked about his book, but why he named the cases he was working on after Rolling Stones songs. And it turns out he's a big Rolling Stones fan. And we talked about, you know, the human aspect of that, why he likes the Rolling Stones, why the influence was there. And, you know, it brought a real human element to him that I liked and I fleshed out. You know, one thing we had on I'm going to grandstand here for a few more seconds, but one thing we had on was the Tiger King lady. Mm-hmm. And we asked a lot of great questions. It's a really interesting show to watch because there's about 20 minutes of excuses of where her husband is. And she's a wonderful lady. But at the end, I asked her this question that no one asks. And I go, what is it that most people don't know about you that probably people should? You know, and I'm trying to, of course, get the human story out of her. And she literally looks at me. This is the last question, last part of the show at the roundup. You think it's over. And I go, what's the one thing people don't know about you that maybe people should get to know you as a human being? And she goes, I'm allergic to cats. She goes, that's why my eyes are always... I fell off my fucking chair laughing.
That was hilarious.
And she goes, that's why my eyes are always red and I kind of look stuffy. She goes, I'm allergic to cats. And I'm like, and you're in the cat... Oh, my God. It's a question no one asked. So, yeah, if you can make it so that we could come up with better questions... that can delve stuff. I do cheat sometimes on use OpenAI for it. Sam Altman's joint. What's the face joint? And sometimes it gives me good, but, you know, I think sometimes it pulls some general stuff. But being able to ask questions that maybe no one else is asking would really be a great departure.
Yeah, I mean, the information that we have, OpenAI with ChatGPT or Anthropic with Claude or Perplexity, these sort of AI answer engines, they don't have this data. Yeah. It's only the few handful of shows that put the transcripts on there. So as we build up this database, all of a sudden we can answer those questions for you or better help you, whatever the sort of research is, whether you're a podcaster or somebody else. It'd be good to know, you know, in any context. So yeah, it's definitely about making the information more accessible through as many sort of like modalities as possible. So I'm excited about the AI enabling this ability to like make more information available to more people in whatever format they need, which could be language. Mm-hmm. Could be audio versus video versus text, and we're asking it questions versus. Now, I'm also mindful, Chris, you're doing this for a job, so how do I make sure that you get compensated in this process as well? So
I get paid.
What an idea. What a novel idea.
Give me $5 a show. So that was the next question I had for you. What's the monetization spec on this? I noticed there's an ad running at the bottom of the screen. I don't know if it's yours or that's something.
No, I think at the bottom you are seeing, depending on which page you're on, it could be Google or it could be some other ones that we're running. Ultimately, on the media business, or sorry, the consumer business, it'll be a media property, right? So you'll have ads and affiliate, and then affiliate stuff in particular will be great for us because there's so much rich information in there. So we'll use the Peter Attia or Andrew Huberman. Imagine a world where I go to that episode around sleep hygiene and I ask it a question like, what were those 5 supplements he suggested? They come back and every one of those is a link off to Amazon or GNC to buy the supplements. Every one of those we can collect affiliate revenue off of, much of which is not set up for that, but we can start setting it up for that in our context. So it'll be a media business. And then in order to sort of like compensate the podcasters, and this is more nascent than today, given the size of the team and where we are, but the intention is to share revenues back, kind of like with YouTube with the 55-45 split. If the revenue is generated against your podcast or your episodes, we will push the dollars back to you. That will require that you go claim the show on Deepcast.pro so that we can have you, hook up your bank account and so we can pay you out for it. But we see it as being a virtuous circle between the consumer property and the podcaster pro property. Oh, yeah, so that's the business model for it.
There's probably so much topical affiliate. I mean, we already affiliate the books, like the authors we on the show.
Yeah, I was going to say every book that's mentioned, every movie, every product you purchase. I mean, you and I said OpenAI, that could be a link off to ChatGPT and their paid product. Like the list goes on and on. So there's tons of opportunities there where it's somewhat, again, like the Google analogy, finding things to do AdWords against. We're effectively doing AdWords against it, but in a more integrated fashion.
We need to set up on Amazon a brain bleeding kit that has the Chris Voss Show logo on it or something. And I don't know.
Maybe you'll be the first merchandising customer that we have when we launch that feature.
We can start sponsoring doctors and shit. You go, hey, that sounds like something we're gonna get a class action lawsuit when somebody does a bad surgery or something. We're just the sponsor. We didn't do it.
We didn't do it. It's not you. You didn't cut into the brain.
You started the brain bleed, though, with your stupid-ass show. Final thoughts as we go out, tell people how they can onboard, how they can get to know you guys better, et cetera.
Yeah, it's fairly easy. Visit www.deepcast.fm and just get started. I mean, honestly, you don't even have to create an account to do things. We would love it if you create an account, and we're rolling out more things that justify you having an account. As a consumer, the account is free, so it costs you nothing. Yeah. If you are a podcaster, signing up for the account is also free. We will start offering premium features, but a lot of what we're going to be doing is free out of the box. And, that's Deepcast.pro. You can claim your podcast, anything that exists within the podcast ecosystem that has an RSS feed. So yeah, Deepcast.pro, Deepcast.fm. I'd love your feedback. Folks can email me directly, Lucas@Deepcast.fm with feedback. I'm that early stage CEO who wants to hear it all.
Did you have a Snapchat? No, I'm just kidding. Gosh, we do a lot of OnlyFans jokes here. There's sometimes where I've said dating or something, and somebody will be like, hey, do you have any people on the show that talk about this topic, Chris? It'd be great if I could give them like a search thing, like here's 10 of the shows of different people who talked about stuff.
You're going to love this.
I'm like, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 billionaires on the show. People are like, where's the episodes? I'm like, just go put in billionaire on the thing. But it'd be great if you could just give it to them, and then they could watch what they want to do, or whatever the hell it is. So it's fun.
We are going to enable both listeners and podcasters to create custom episode and podcast lists. So if you wanted to do top 10 episodes on Brain Bleed, then we can put that list together and folks can share, and we'll have featured lists. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of sort of user generated stuff as well in the mix to help folks beyond the AI.
We're thinking about having Elon Musk and Nick Cannon on the show so we can do an intervention to get them both vasectomies, or at least an HR intervention to get Elon to quit dating his employees or something. I don't know what that means.
Something.
Don't sue me, Elon. It's just a joke. Calm down. Anyway.
He loves jokes. If you follow him on Twitter, everything's a joke. So
yeah, everything's a joke. Really. Who gives a shit about democracy? Whatever. Anyway, thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it, Lucas. This has been a lot of fun having you on the show.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it. And we can avoid brain bleed with our official brain bleed Band-Aids, our official brain bleed helmets, and whatever else we've got next.
We're going to town over there on the merchandise. But I love what you guys' vision is. I love the AI stuff, being able to give us as podcasters more tools. help people find us, because, we want people to find us. People love our show for some reason. I still don't know why. Maybe AI can figure that out.
Base humanity, Chris. That's what it is.
We're trying to save humanity. I don't know. What can you do? But yep. And by the way, the attorney said I have to say this: if we break your system with our 2,000 episodes, it's not our fault. Your system will probably go full Skynet AI on us. They're just like, we're just going to kill humans because this is too many podcast episodes to load into the system. So thanks for tuning in to my audience. We certainly appreciate you guys being here, as always, for 16 years, 2,000 episodes. This is what we do. We're going to try and do it for another 16 episodes in 2,000. Whatever. You get I'm just going to round out.
COVID.
It's COVID. I'm going to be milking the COVID excuse now for
another 6 months.
I'm going to tell people I have long COVID, even though I don't. I probably shouldn't do this joke, but I'm just going to be like, anytime I make a mistake on anything, it's their long COVID. Anyway, people are like, that doesn't fix AD. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time, or else.